gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube. This is the Early Bird Special. I am Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good Tuesday morning, my friend.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm alive.
You're alive and well.
Yes,
Fantastic.
after these basketball games last night, you know where we're starting.
I mean, absolutely. I was just about to say, you got to be living at least somewhat good if you're a fan of some of these teams, because we had 4 straight underdogs pull off wins in the playoffs, and that's just basketball. We ain't even getting to hockey yet.
And we'll get into that. We'll get into the games later today. And then we got some miscellaneous news. We'll talk some Popovich. The coach of the year was announced yesterday for the NBA. And then we'll have KG at the top of the hour talking recapping Raw. And then we'll have Nick. I can't even read my own handwriting. Hronis?
Yes, a buddy of mine, Nick Hronis, will be dropping by. We weren't here yesterday, so we didn't get to talk any of the Kentucky Derby or how that went. Nick is part of a family here locally who actually breed and make, or put these horses up for race. So
they make horses?
Well, they do. They actually
That would
make
be
horses.
awesome.
To be fair,
I have
breeding
so many
process
questions
and stuff like that. If you want to get into that, you'd have to talk to him.
Plus, he's a Ravens fan, and
Yes.
it just so happened the Ravens made a bold move yesterday.
Yes,
with their veteran kicker.
Bold.
Yeah, I mean,
really bold
when the guy is your all-time leading scorer.
Fair. He is who he is, but we'll get to that at a different time. And also, I mean, he has a podcast to pump up as well. So
And it is Tuesday, so we have a trip for you. And we had a winner last week, so hopefully we can go back to back. But let's get into the NBA. I'm not going to say my Knicks because I'm far from it.
That's what I was just about to ask.
I really love this Brunson kid, man. He reminds me of a young D Rose before the injuries. The way he runs that offense with Tibbs, I'm just a big fan of him.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the underdogs, obviously going into Boston, and
I pray they beat Boston.
Me too. But it just makes
pray.
it easier for Cleveland.
Absolutely, that's the whole point.
But Cleveland's got their other problems to worry about. So
we'll get to that in a second,
too.
okay? Look, Cleveland and Cleveland fans, if you're with me here, pump the brakes. We're okay. It's not that big of a deal.
I mean, it is a big
They're
deal.
a good. No, the Pacers are a great team, and again, we'll get to that in a second. But the way you lost, I think everybody's freaking out over this, saying, "Oh, Cleveland's in trouble." Let's calm down. It's the first loss of the playoffs. Calm yourself. You have to have one at least. We're not perfect. No one's perfect.
And I thought for sure the Knicks were going to blow that. They were down by 20 in the third.
Yeah.
So when I got home, I started, cleaning up and getting ready. And then I had the game on so I can hear it. And then it started to get down to 11, then to 8. And I was like, okay, this is the
team
game.
Is never dead, which I find interesting. And it's because they always play their starters. Let's be honest with you. I mean, Mikal Bridges played 50 plus minutes last night. 50 plus. That's nuts. Like, obviously they went to overtime, but as you said, led by Jalen Brunson's 29 and
OG
stepping up finally with 29 as well. I shouldn't say finally, but offensively, we're finally seeing something better than we are used to seeing in the last couple of games.
6 3-pointers from OG,
which you needed. And it was a really bad shooting game from the Boston Celtics as well from 3. I mean, didn't you say they missed 40 plus?
45 missed threes.
I mean, you can't have that. And again, that's kind of the mirrors what the issue was with Cleveland on Sunday.
They shot 60.
But again, when you live and die by the 3, like Boston has become.
So when you go 15 for 60 from the 3-point line, it's not going to work.
No.
And they still pushed it in overtime.
And to only lose by 3, I mean,
Tatum had a bad game, so I wouldn't expect Boston to just lay over and give that series away.
16 and 6 with 2 steals is a bad game. I'll take a bad game every day of the week.
Well, I'm talking about his just shooting. Was he 7 for 23 or something like that?
No, that's fair. I mean, he barely shot a third or 33%, I think, from 3, but that's still pretty normal if you're an NBA player, if you really think.
Yeah, when you're shooting 63s, I mean,
You
live and die by the three. We've talked about it.
Absolutely. And that's where they really died. Who really had a bad game was Jaylen Brown. Jaylen went 1 for 10. He only, like, I shouldn't say that as if he didn't do well that way. He scored 23, but those misses pile up. And again, the supporting cast did everything they could to keep him going. Porzingis got hurt again, I believe,
Yep, he was gone in the first half.
and that was
The other white boy went to the half.
Is it weird to anybody else though how much he impacts this team? Because you look at him on paper, and I'm not saying Kristaps isn't a impactful player at all. He always has been ever since he's been drafted. But it's more of, you wouldn't expect him to have as much of an impact on this team as he does.
Yeah.
But when he leaves the court, although Al Horford is a great leader in his own right, he's not the unicorn. And when you lose that on offense specifically, it really takes them back a step, even though you still have two absolute superstars.
Yeah, I mean, Horford stepped up in a big way in the second half. But yeah, this is Courtney Cronin talking about the Boston Celtics.
This is bad, man. Like, that is not a good look for the Celtics. Maybe they'll be fine, but just thinking about what happened here and how down the stretch, last 3 playoffs, they're 3-9 when making less threes than their opponents. Live by the 3, die by the 3. You better be trying to live by it more times than just like letting it go and trying to like play it as it lies, because that's how they win games. And we saw this during the regular season with the Boston Celtics, the times where they would miss 20, 33 pointers, and that would be the catalyst for them to lose games. Yes, they have the depth. Yes, they've got a lot of 3-point shooters, but if those shots don't fall, it doesn't feel like they can go deep enough in the bag of offense to be able to grind out these wins.
Is it so? Okay, I need to kind of present this to you, my friend, and see what you think about this, because it just kind of popped up in my head. Does it kind of feel like to you that the Boston Celtics, or at least Brad Stevens, is kind of trying to mimic what the Golden State Warriors were doing back when they had their dynasty and created this entire 3-point flurry world that we live in today?
Probably.
In a way. Okay,
yeah, in a way. Definitely in a way. I mean, shooting 63s, and when you know you're having a cold night, that's when you kind of start to, I mean, just from my coaching experience, obviously I'm not the coach of the Boston Celtics, but when we've had, bad nights of shooting, that's when you start going back to the fundamentals and make, the easy layups and start to heat up the shooting.
Like we said about JJ Redick last week, you made adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
You did something to change up the game and potentially win. I think that this is kind of the issue, though, when it comes to teams mimicking that kind of style of play. You have to remember who was on that team that changed the entire NBA. You had arguably 2, if not 3, of the best shooters the NBA has ever seen. If we really want to count the Kevin Durant days, I'm really going more back towards the beginning of the time. Yeah, before they got Kevin.
The Splash Bros.
Yeah. And when you're playing as a team like Boston, where although you all live and die by the 3, none of you are really, I would say, known for being 3-point shooters. It's kind of an odd concept, but it's more of, if you're going to do it this way, I would at least have somebody that is a marksman on the team that is going to hit 6 of 8 every single night.
Yeah. I mean, what I saw of the game is when the Knicks put their big boys in, they let Boston shoot once, but crashed the boards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got them back into the game when they were down by 20.
Oh, it always does.
And that's when they started getting aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to crash the boards and force you to shoot once, and that's all you're going to get.
Is a monster on the offensive board. He just flies through. He knows when his teammates are about to miss, which I find very impressive.
But overall in this series, I mean, New York was 0 for 8 in the top 2 seeds.
Yeah.
Including the Cavs. So this is the first win against a top 2 team for the Knicks. So pump the brakes. I'll take it from Burdick. Pump the brakes. It's going to be a long series.
Yeah, and the likelihood of Boston having this kind of a shooting performance every single night is minimal. I mean, if you really want to put it this way, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Jason Tatum combined went 10 for 41 of their 3-pointers in this game yesterday. That isn't going to happen 4 out of the 5 games going forward. It's just not. They're going to get better, just like Cleveland. They're not going to have a bad shooting night like they did in game 1. So if you're a Boston fan, don't freak out too much. Although I would say this is a better look for the Knicks than it is for the Pacers.
Well, I'm glad it was game 1.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean,
it's
it'll
going to
be a
make
better
these series
series.
exciting.
And
It
hopefully
really
New
is.
York will come with that chip on their shoulder in game 2 and not lay over, because I'm nervous that they just lay over and
Could you imagine they
overlook
go
Boston.
back to New York with a 2-0 lead?
Yes, that would be dope.
New York would be exploding in games 3 and 4.
But going into the night game, the Denver and OKC, that was more of a shock to me. I know Denver is Denver, and Joker's gonna get his, but that was a hell of a game.
So I keep watching Denver play, and I don't know if anybody else kind of echoes this sentiment, but text in 661-842-2000 if you do. I'm kind of growing annoyed with how Jokic plays, but not in a way of like, God, I hate this guy. It's more of, how do teams not figure out a way to stop this dude?
Right.
Like, it's not like, it doesn't even seem like he's trying. Like, you see half these rebounds, they're really volleyball tap outs to teammates. Like, he's not even grabbing the ball.
No.
You know what it reminds me a lot of? It's a better version of Zydrunas Ilgauskas. It really is. Like, Zydrunas was a fantastic center for Cleveland and everybody he played for, but he was never the superstar. He was never the great, great center. He was just, and he would never jump too, which would bug the crap out of me as a Cleveland.
Yeah, his
fan.
play doesn't look like he would put up 42
No.
and 22.
But the more I'm thinking about it too, and the more I watch them, the more I keep saying to myself, they need to go trade for Luka. Because
put
if
them together?
you put Luka and Jokic on the court at the same time, they play at the exact same pace. They want to
Slow.
play the exact same way. Dude,
It's that Euro League.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I know it would take a lot to give up for him, including Jamal Murray, which would,
Probably everybody else on their team.
yeah. But if you could ever get a point in time where Luka and Jokic are on the same court at the same time on the same team, that would be monstrous.
I mean, Gordon came back to prime, it hit the shot. But my thought is more of, we've talked about OKC, and you said it before the playoffs started. OKC is a super young team. And is this going to be where they hit the fork in the road?
Yeah, and this is going to be the team that's going to test them the best. Well, regardless if it was going to be the Nuggets or the Clippers. But yeah, I could see that being the case. I wouldn't say this loss is because of their inexperience, though. This just didn't bounce your way. Honestly, they were really doing solidly up until the last 2-3 minutes of the game when Denver made this incredible 8-9-0 run and got it close. And then you really just threw the ball to the wrong guy at the wrong time. The first 2 times this worked, they got it to SGA. He knocked him down. They got it to Williams. He knocked it down. The third time you got it to Chet. And Chet's a 75% free throw shooter. All he had to do was hit one. Just one. And you would have at least sealed this game, probably. But he misses both. You get an easy 3-pointer at the other side from Gordon, who is slowly becoming one of the most clutch players in the playoffs this year. And it's just, that's history. I don't think this is, again, on their inexperience. I think the ball just didn't roll your way this time.
Just a bad luck.
Yeah. And honestly, there was a point where they scored too quickly. On one of the inbounds plays towards the end, I believe there was like 10, 11 seconds left. SGA got a breakaway to the basket for a dunk, and everybody thought, oh, okay, cool, easy 2 points. Usually in a game, yeah, that would be the case. But when you're up by 1-2 points at this point, maybe 3, and there's 10 seconds left, and you have a little bit of court in front of you, pass up on the dunk and dribble it out a little bit, lower that time, because think of it this way. They shot about 4 or 5 free throws, Sparky, in a 2 to 3 second span on game clock. That last 15, 20 seconds of the game went at least 2 to 5 minutes. You could have dribbled that out and easily won it for your team, but instead he took the easy bucket, which ended up biting them in the butt. And that just is the way their game rolls.
Well, I want to hear your what you think about Emmett Golden talking about, OKC, and if, pretty much after this loss.
The Nuggets, they basically trailed the entire game. It almost had that Celtics-Knicks feel to it. Like, okay, the Knicks are never going to really be able to get over the mountain. They'll keep climbing up it and they'll get close, but they just won't have enough to get over. But OKC, I guess their kryptonite, at least it was last year and it was tonight, is when the games are on the line and they're very important, they don't seem to come through.
It's one game. Yeah, it's one game, and I'd calm down on that. I think this is just a great way for Denver to come out and execute and pull off a win and steal it from Oklahoma City, obviously. But I could see what he means. Like last year, it was kind of the same thing. That's why Luka ended up beating them in close games at the end of the year. I would calm down on that. I think this Oklahoma City team is a different team. I just don't know if it's going to be a cakewalk for them to get out of this series. They're going to have to work for it. And honestly, I keep forgetting about it, but I am reminded this is the Russell Westbrook revenge tour. Russ has taken on his second former team in a row in the playoffs, and he's coming to play.
Oh yeah, he was excited when he said after the Game 7 win, he was like, "We're coming, OKC, let's go."
Now, if I have to make one critique though, just one, can we stop allowing Russ to take the final shot? He doesn't need to be taking that 3-pointer. He's 1 for 4, 1 for 5 on the game after missing that one. This boy is not the one that you want taking a 3 at the end of the game. Jamal Murray is. Jokic is. At this point, Aaron Gordon is. Those 3 take the final. Shoot, Brown. Give it to Christian Brown. That boy is working his butt off to get these wins. Anybody but Westbrook and Porter at this point, and take that 3. Anybody else? If you are late in the game, that's what really when Westbrook took that 3 late in the game for Denver and missed, I immediately said, "Oh, it's over." He just absolutely ruined it for him.
Well, let's take our first break. We'll come back. We'll preview the 2 games on the calendar today, right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. wonder why I'm happy all the time.
Welcome to adulthood.
Welcome to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, that's Sparky. And real quick, let's get into the games for tonight before we move on to some of the cooler talking points and stories from the other day that we didn't get to talk about.
Like the Cavs.
Like the Cavs. Again, game one of this series was on Sunday to start the entire second round. Again, it was so weird though to see a second round game start before the first round actually ended.
Yeah, it was weird.
But I mean, just goes to show how much they actually care about the Cavaliers and the Pacers, because obviously, again, for the second day in a row, we're going to be the early game instead of the night game. But I digress.
Is it not because of the Eastern times?
Sure.
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Being a Dolphin fan, I have to wake up early for our games while the Raiders always get the 1 o'clock.
Look, man,
I think it's because they're in Florida.
I'm just sitting here complaining because my team never gets the prime time
the
game.
prime time.
Okay?
Yeah, I get it.
I want
My
a game
team's
at 7.
never on TV, so
I want a game at 7 too. It's okay. No, but Cleveland came out obviously a little bit flat in game one, losing to the Pacers 121-112. Again, as I said at the beginning of the show, though, pump the brakes. Cleveland had a really, really bad shooting game, especially from 3. And honestly, you didn't have your second best scorer in Darius Garland. I have some critiques when it comes to who took the second most shots on the team, but due to injuries and stuff like that, we'll get to in a second. That's why. But don't hear it from me. Hear it from the star of the team on what they need to do to bounce back here in game 2.
We got to look at the film and then we got to execute. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing. I could tell you what it was, but we got to go out there and execute on the floor. And I have no doubt that we will. You know, that's the team we've shown to be. And it's one game. I mean, yeah, we lost home court advantage technically, but it's one game. And we just got to respond for game 2.
Now, again, the Pacers are really, really good at spreading the ball and everybody getting involved on offense. They had, I believe, 6 guys in double figures in this game. I am not expecting that to happen throughout the series. Cleveland is a very good defensive team, and although banged up right now, they are deep. They are very deep on the bench. So I am not expecting anything to happen in terms of loss of production, especially if guys like Evan Mobley and Hunter don't play tonight, because they are banged up. They both got injured on back-to-back plays in the fourth quarter, which I am all for the physical play in the playoffs. But there were about 3 or 4 calls in this game that should have been called that were rough, that could have really injured players. Not just on Cleveland's side. There were some, going against Cleveland as well.
I saw 2 last night in the Knicks game.
It's like at some point you have to blow the whistle, bud. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the rough play and stuff, but when it comes down to potentially injuring these guys, okay, there's the line. Let's not get that far into the physical play. Okay, this is basketball, not football.
I saw 2 with Cat getting tackled on a put up that he should have been called for.
Yep.
And a late 3-point on the side that the guy got tackled.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see his elbow flop like somebody just slapped the hell out of it. I'm like, really?
Well, I mean,
okay. I mean, let it play, then let it play on both sides.
Right, absolutely. And again, that's why I'm okay with it. It's being let go on both sides. But when it comes down to injury or situations like, the Hunter situation, I won't say Mobley's, because Mobley he came down on top of Evans' foot. That happens in basketball all the time. I've had it happen to me. But it's more of like the Hunter situation. He's going up for a basket. I believe it was Nimhard went up for a great block. It was a fantastic block on the ball, but but your secondary hand is literally pushing Hunter down to the ground. That is a foul. You cannot do that. You can't bolster yourself up off of somebody else to block their shot. That's not legal, and nor should it be allowed. And it led to Hunter getting hurt. So these are the plays that you really should call, or at least
that's
call
even
out.
a penalty in football.
I mean, we saw it last night with the Denver game. Jokic got mad because Dort had fouled him. And what did Jokic do to get back at him? Threw an elbow right in the back of Dort's head. We get that these things happen, but you have to draw the line somewhere.
Take the aggression out on somebody.
And when it comes to literally going out and hurting guys, I'm not going to say intentionally. Now, although Jokic's that looked intentional.
Yeah.
That 100% looked intentional. But you have to draw the line somewhere is my point.
Well, then going back to the Cavs, I had to pull this clip. I know I'm not a big fan of Kendrick Perkins, but they asked Kendrick, are the Cavs in trouble?
Hell yeah, they're in trouble. Hell yeah, they're in trouble. And look, I had this series going 7 games because I'm always weary of a Donovan Mitchell led team. That his teams that's led by him never go to a conference finals, right? And when you look at what the Pacers do, they play agenda-free basketball offensively. They don't care who gets to shine. By the way, I think we all forgot this was a team that went to the conference finals against the NBA champions last year. These guys have experience, right? When you think about those guys and what they do defensively, they get into you. Tyrese Halliburton showing the leadership last night on the road, setting the table for everybody, picking his spots when to attack and be aggressive. I'm looking at this team and I'm like, if the Cavs don't get Evan Mobley more involved and more than 13 shots, they're going to get their ass sent home.
Perkins, man.
I mean, again, he's not wrong. Though.
I know, but
that's my one critique is your second best player is on the bench because he's hurt. Darius Garland with a toe injury. Hopefully he'll be back tonight. That's the rumor, but they don't know exactly how far he goes. But why is Ty Jerome, the guy off the bench, taking the second most shots on the court? I know Evan got banged up. I know Hunter got banged up, but that shouldn't be the case. And honestly, Ty took a lot of shots that were absolutely unwarranted. He should not be taking this many shots. But that's where I agree with him. Evan's got to get more involved, and you have to beat him like that. Him and Jared Allen both. I think that's really where this series is going to be won. Is you have to slow them down, because every time you miss, the Pacers are doing a fast break every single time.
And we've talked about it. The Pacers put up points. They're an offensive team. And, it's a perfect matchup because Cleveland has got a tough defense. So I would think they make the adjustments. And, I mean, with all the rumor, all the announcers saying, they should be concerned. They should be concerned. As a Cavs fan, I want to hear what you say after we hear from Jay Williams.
I am extremely concerned about the Cavs. Number one, Garland in that situation. And number two, defensively, you talk about one of the best teams defensively in the league. I mean, they just look uninterested in this game. I mean, for 19 threes to be made on 54% shooting, with all the narratives that have been looming around Cleveland throughout the entire year, I better see a different Cleveland team in game 2. And I know they had a good layoff, and sometimes that layoff can disrupt your rhythm and how you're prepared for that game. But still, that's no excuses. I saw lazy defense. Donovan Mitchell, I think he is a superstar in this league. 33 points on 30 shots. You have 2 players that took 50 of their 98 shots, Greeny. The second player was Ty Jerome. So, look, not showing up offensively, but defensively not being locked in. That was one of the most disappointing efforts that I've seen in the game 1.
I agree with him in the sense that they need to step it up in terms of the intensity of the game. I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's one game.
It was a bad shooting game from them altogether. And as I stated a couple days ago, that's the trade-off when you sweep teams, is you have that rest time, which could be good in certain situations and could be really bad in others. And in this situation, I think it was bad. I think it was bad for all 3 of the top seeded teams that lost in the first 3 games. Because you look at the Celtics, you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, all had rest time, all end up losing to the next game.
And out of those 3, just as a fan of basketball, I mean, who do you think of those 3 teams that lost is the one that is
in the most trouble?
Is most concerned about?
If I'm being biased, Cleveland.
Yeah.
But
Really?
That's because of who they're playing.
Okay.
Honestly,
I would
Pacers,
say OKC, but
OKC is interesting to me. But again, I don't credit that loss yesterday to lack of experience or anything. The ball just didn't go your way.
Yeah.
Ball don't lie, and that ball didn't want to go down for you. It did for Denver. So that's just the way that game ended. And honestly, I think Cleveland is in the most trouble only because of the team you're playing. Because like Kendrick said, remember, Indiana went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. No one thought they would. They haven't changed anything on the team. All they've done is get better at what they do. And the way the Indiana Pacers play is the exact contrast to the way Cleveland wants to play. Cleveland wants to slow it down, but especially when we don't have Darius Garland to really dictate the pace. The Pacers, as I said a couple minutes ago, the minute you missed your shot and they grab a rebound, they're running. They're on the other side of the court waiting for a fast break. If you've ever played on the court, or if you've ever played in at the parks or whatever, this is the cherry picker. This is the guy you hate playing against because he's already gone. He knows you missed that basket, and he's on the other side waiting for his. And as annoying as that is, that's part of the game. You have to get good at that. That's not illegal. So if you're Cleveland, that does worry you in a sense, and especially if they don't make the adjustments as we think they will and end up falling flat in game 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way.
And before we take a break and get into the Warriors Timberwolves game, which I think is going to be a hell of a game, but the Cleveland Cavaliers coach Kenny Atkinson won the NBA Coach of the Year, and it's not really a big surprise, is it to you?
I mean, honestly, no, but I don't think he should have won.
Really?
I know, unpopular opinion, but and he won handedly too. If you really look at the numbers, I think it should have been JB Bickerstaff. I really do. Like, again, maybe me being Homer, and JB used to be the Cleveland Cavaliers coach and really built this team, but it's kind of like the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr argument. Like, as great of a coach as Kenny is, and he's really incorporated his offense into this team, which was desperately needed, but JB built a great team that was already there, and Kenny kind of just adopted it. And this isn't something that Coach Atkinson hasn't said himself. He said himself in the press conference that he inherited a great team from JB, and he credits everything to JB. But if you really look at the body of work of who turned their team around, who really made something out of this team, it really, Ime Udoka probably would have a better argument than Kenny, because Ime with this young Rockets team was impressive too, even though they have all the talent in the world. But if you really break down who did the best job with their team, who really deserves to be coach of the year because he turned his team around, it's JB Bickerstaff. The Pistons were awful. They've been historically awful for the last couple years. The only thing that he couldn't fix is their playoff history woes. And hopefully he can do that next year, but only time will tell. I think JB should have won. That's my personal opinion.
Well, that's a good. I mean, I thought you were just gonna drool over Atkinson. So as a Cavs fan, that's pretty cool. But
again, I am happy to see that he won. Just like Evan Mobley with the Defensive Player of the Year, I will take it and run. That is awesome. My team getting accolades in any way, shape, or form, fantastic. I shouldn't say my team, but the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I root for, absolutely getting accolades that they normally don't get. Love to see. But this year, it should have went to JB.
I think if you're going to say my team, I fight this all the time because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and that's my team. So when I say we lose and we win, I mean, it's just like a stockholder.
Yeah.
If you put money into this team that much, especially for
saying
40 years,
it makes me feel biased in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I try not to look at it from biased opinions.
But we'll get into the Warriors game, the Warriors Timberwolves game, and get it kind of broke off into a topic. If you watched the halftime show yesterday on, where GOATs sit, whether it's the LeBrons or is Steph getting close to LeBron. So I'll bounce that off you, and text in your questions or comments anytime, 661-842-2000. We'll have a trivia question for you at the last segment of this hour coming up in about 10 minutes right here. The early bird special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. It's the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick, and that's Sparky. We have one more game to go over. Our final game one of the second round of the NBA playoffs as the Warriors and the Timberwolves get set to take each other on tonight at 6:30 p.m. That'll be on TNT and Max if you're looking to check that one out. As Steph Curry and his band of hooligans. Are we setting up Butler as Robin, or is he Alfred, like Buddy keeps telling? I mean, his last name is Butler. I kind of ride with that one.
I would go with Butler.
You're thinking
Alfred? Yeah.
Butler's Alfred. I think
that picture they showed with the superheroes, it was rough. I mean, putting Butler and Robin was just tough.
It's really rough. And let's be honest, New Age Alfred is not just a butler. He's badass himself, former Marine or whatever the heck you was, Secret Service. I can't even remember. Like half these
if you're gonna talk Batman, I'm upset that they keep pushing this sequel back.
What, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson one?
Well, the sequel to the last one was, I really enjoyed the first one.
I agree.
And I don't know why they keep just sitting on this and pushing it back, and now they're talking about canceling it.
Honestly, it
was a perfect setup.
It really is.
With the bonus scene and showing, Riddler and the Joker in the Arkham Asylum. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah. Nerds can, I think, attest to this along with us, that WB has a really bad way of ruining a lot of really great stuff. And this is just another example of that. So they know not of what they could have, and unfortunately, we're all going to have to pay the price, because it sounds like we may never see another.
Finally get a good Batman, and then you're going to screw on it.
Oh, he's signed on. Robert's not going anywhere. It's the director you're going to lose, which means all of these movies are going to go back to being the
starting over.
Well, I'm assuming probably just closer to
Batman and
Val
Robin.
Kilmer,
oh,
Batman.
No.
Maybe, because
I mean, you're not going to Val Kilmer, but geez,
you're not going to get Christian Bale Batman, because he's not coming back either. But anyways, let's get back to a little bit of sports here. Apologies.
Well, no, the Warriors Timberwolves. I mean, I'm going to stay awake tonight and try to watch both these games, because I'm really excited to see the Anthony Edwards against Butler.
5.5. Minnesota is a 6.5 point favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's weird.
Would you jump on that? I'm gonna have to call Bolt after this show.
No, I wouldn't. That's a little high for me. I don't like that. I think this is going to be a lot closer than people are giving it credit.
I take Golden State in the points.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would absolutely take Golden State in the points in this one if you're looking to bet, but it really depends on how the thumb is looking for Steph. Because one thing that I think the Rockets did very well, or at least Dylan Brooks did very well, is he kept that injury lingering for Steph. So his shooting would suffer because of it. So,
and seeing Steph's son after the Game 6 loss, that was
crying and
horrible. As a father, that was just like, oh man, he's going to come out pissed in Game 7.
Oh, absolutely, and he absolutely did. But see, he would just come out and say, "You made my
son cry."
Is it kind of funny? Because I heard this earlier today too. Is Steph the most likable megastar the NBA's ever had?
Probably.
I would say so. Because I mean, usually I can't speak for this because I didn't live through it, but you could speak for it a little bit more than I. Michael had his haters.
Oh yeah.
LeBron has nothing but.
Yeah.
Kobe's had his haters.
I hated Kobe when he was
like. I don't know.
I didn't hate Kobe, but I hated Kobe when he was with Shaq.
Like, yeah. Well, and then I think there's a lot of Shaq haters out there too.
I mean, I was gonna say he's probably gonna be close because everyone loved Shaq when he first came out. And especially in Orlando.
Yes. And but let's see, when he moved to LA though and started the rapping and the movies and
the Shaq Fu. Yeah. I think that's when people started hating him.
Yeah, a little bit.
And now it's turned around where everyone loves him. Like I can't even go to a store and there's Shaq gummies, there's Shaq everything.
Right.
And I would say, I mean, people hated Barkley when I was growing up.
Yep.
People hated
but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of Steph haters out there.
No.
And you know what? I think the kids have a lot to do with that. I think his press conferences with his daughter and stuff like that have really brought him in, and just like, I don't know, just like Steph himself is just probably the most likable superstar that they've ever had.
Well, do you think, I know we'll get into more basketball tomorrow, but looking in this game before even game 1, who do you think has the edge?
I'd have to give it to Minnesota because of how well they've been playing and obviously uprooting Luka and LeBron. I think you have a little bit more momentum than the Warriors having to go throughout their series. And I know the argument is the Warriors are more banged up, but I'd also argue, much like we said with the rest of these series, not playing for a couple days when you've been playing very good basketball to win your series does end up, derailing you at a point. So, but I see the arguments either way is my point here, but I'm going to stick with Minnesota. I like Minnesota a little bit more in this game. Both of these teams are only separated by one game, and it's really going to come down to star power. Which star is going to show up bigger? Is it going to be Ant, or is it going to be, really, in my opinion, this time it's going to be Steph. Steph has to be the one to step up and
I think it'll be playoff Butler. And I'm going to take Golden State just because I think they're starting to play well as a team. I think, it took a little while. I know the records wouldn't show that, but if you watch the games, it looks like, okay, well, what Butler are we going to get? Are we going to get the Butler that's more of a sixth man that's coming off? But I think it's going to be one of the better series. I mean, all these series are looking like they're going to be entertaining, but I'm going to, bring up this question. And of course it's Kendrick Perkins, but it was, going back to the GOAT conversation, everyone, I mean, we can talk the GOAT of their timeline because that's really the conversation because basketball has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But Kendrick had this to say on Steph and, the GOAT conversation.
Steph Curry is one championship away and one finals MVP away from entering the GOAT conversation. Real talk. And I would dare somebody to try to argue or make me say something ridiculous. What he has done for the game, he has changed the game forever. Forever. He's given life to all the guys that are under 6'3", right? Not just because his shooting ability, but because what he brings to the table night in and night out on a day-to-day basis as a true professional. And now he's getting it done on both ends of the floor. Well, he's been getting it done on both ends of the floor because in his fourth championship against the Boston Celtics, they were trying to pick on him. And I thought that's when he leveled up and took it to the next level defensively.
I see his point. And honestly, I've been saying this for a long time that he needs to start being put in the GOAT conversation, especially from what he's done for the game. Honestly, as we said, he and Clay really started this 3-point flurry that we are currently living in. But let's also remember what that term means. The greatest of all time, the greatest to ever do it, the greatest to do everything. And again, much like the argument with everybody else that gets put into this conversation, it is hard to live up to Black Jesus. Michael Jordan, for anybody who don't get that joke. Every NBA player refers to this man as Black Jesus. I'm not even joking about
never heard that one.
Really? Oh, no. Watch any interview. Like, I swear to, I'm not joking about this. This is not something I made up. If you watch All the Smoke, if you watch any of these guys talk about Mike, Black Jesus.
I've heard a lot lately that Anthony Edwards is Jordan's
son. Yeah, well,
I've never heard that one.
Technically, this is the battle between two of Jordan's illegitimate children, if you listen to the internet, because Jimmy Butler is also in that conversation. But no, I don't believe that in either side of it. I think both of them very much have shades of Mike's game in them, but it's not like that. I mean, but again, getting back to the Steph part of this, I agree in terms of maybe the greatest point guard to ever live. 1,000% he's the greatest shooter to ever play. But I don't know about the GOAT. That's a really high order. And I mean, again, offensively, they're bar for bar if you really want to get down to it. But defensively, you really want to sit there and tell me that Steph Curry can play defense like Michael could? No.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Do you think it's is LeBron, is Curry, is Kobe? Who's your GOAT? I'm gonna say it 100% is Jordan or the Black Jesus.
Black Jesus. Baby.
But text in your comments at 661-842-2000, and then right after this break, we'll talk a little trivia, but right into one of maybe the greatest coaches of all time stepping away, and El Jefe.
El Jefe.
We'll hear this and much more right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
trivia, baby.
I'm not finished with you.
I don't think you're gonna like how this ends, hotshot.
Say my name.
Your ass better call somebody.
I win. Time to play the game.
Welcome to the Early Bird Specials Trivia Tuesday. I'm Sparky, and that's Burdick, and I'm going to make it real easy. 10 NBA teams have never won an NBA championship. Can you name 2? Text them in 661-842-2000. Burdick, you had a couple.
I had a
guesses,
couple this morning.
but let's get into one of maybe the greatest coaches of all time, Mr. Popovich. Maybe.
Are we really considering this?
Yeah.
I think it's Pop. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are other people that I guess people could throw into the hat. You got your Phil Jacksons, your Pat Rileys, Coach K's, I guess, if we really want to go that far.
I was going to say Phil, but yeah.
I mean,
I would
Phil
throw in
is
Pat Riley.
definitely in the conversation. But if we want to talk about the guy who uprooted Phil, we want to talk about the guy who beat Phil on multiple occasions, it's Coach Pop, baby. It's Coach Pop. And there's nobody in NBA that I think that gets more respect than Coach Popovich, than El Jefe himself.
Well, this was his we've got 2 clips from Pop. This is the first one, just kind of announcing his retirement.
One of the reasons that I'm doing this now is that we have to have someone in charge who's fully capable of giving their very best, because that's what this group deserves and demands. And we have that man here in San Antonio. And Mitch Johnson will be the guy who forges their futures. And I'll do everything I can to help him and help them. But I'll have a new job. And I want to make sure everybody understands what the new job is. I'm no longer a coach. I'm El Jefe.
In order for this man to just leave basketball, he is going to have to leave this earth. I mean, Greg Popovich is a salt of this earth kind of a person. And I love the fact that he is still with the organization. But yes, he is stepping down after his health scares with the stroke this past year that pretty much took him out for the whole year. And Mitch Johnson stepped up to take over as the interim head coach for 77 games. The team obviously is improving. He's still going to be around as, I believe, the president of basketball operations, if I'm not mistaken. So he's still going to be a part of the entire team, but his health and everything has kind of stopped him from being able to do this. I loved the El Jefe line. I loved the shirt and stuff with Tim Duncan and Manu and Robinson and everybody in attendance. It just shows how much this man is loved and beloved by this entire Spurs organization. And it speaks volumes of how great of a coach he really was, because not only did this man, like I said, dethrone a lot of great teams and really show that you didn't need a super team to really contend in the NBA, although I argue that Tony Parker and Manu and Tim Duncan could really be seen as one of the first big threes of the NBA's entire run with the big three. But it really just, again, shows how good of a coach he's been to be able to develop so many players that he's developed. All of these guys come into San Antonio and leave a better player or stay in San Antonio as one of the better players in the league. He's got guys coming from all over the league to this press conference that don't even play for San Antonio anymore just to come shake his hand. I don't know. That's my argument that Greg Popovich is the greatest coach in NBA history, but that's just me.
I just grew up with Phil Jackson and Pat Riley and
fair.
going back and forth. I mean, the guy has won over 1,400 games.
Yep.
I mean, he's up there. He's definitely up there, and definitely in this era, he is. And which brought up a great topic on TNT last night is, after Popovich, who is the current coach that you would think would throw in that mix? Is it Kerr?
Yeah, I think Kerr could potentially get that kind of respect. I think Eric Spoelstra in Miami deserves that kind of respect.
I forgot all about him. Thankfully.
But like it requires not only a dynasty, but it requires you to be a main part of said dynasty. Because like people like Ty Lue, who are fantastic coaches and probably should be seen as a better coach in the league than he is, I would never say is in this conversation, only because he's never really solidified a dynasty. He's helped make or win championships, but he has never really done it on a consistent level. And it's hard to say that any coach really has outside of maybe a Steve Kerr or an Eric Spoelstra, and that's okay. I think a lot of these guys coming in, we've talked about it with the moving on of Denver's head coach, they're getting younger. And that's kind of the way the league is headed. So maybe the guy who is the next Popovich hasn't even been brought into the league yet. We have no idea.
We had a listener say Popovich is for sure the GOAT. And the other one says Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman were the first three.
That's another argument you could say that that's the first ever big three. I think there's been a lot of big threes in the NBA's history. But because, I mean, if you really want to boil it down to it, the first one that started the problem, Boston Celtics.
Oh,
KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. But everybody forgets about that one.
The other one says Jordan is the GOAT, followed by Kobe and Kareem.
Ooh, yeah. See, and that's another one. Kareem, you have to throw him into the conversation. That's why it's really hard. I agree with you. It's hard to say if you're a GOAT of your sport. You can be a GOAT of your generation. Like Shohei Ohtani will go down as a GOAT of this generation in baseball. But is he the GOAT of baseball? I mean, obviously time will tell. Maybe his stats will get that high, but it's really going to be hard to put him up against a lot of other people that have dominated the game for probably what will be a much longer term or much longer period of time is a better way to put that. But we got to take a quick break, pay some bills. On the other side, KG will be here to talk Backlash this weekend, WWE. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special, Hour 2 on this Tuesday. Did we get any text messages on the trivia question, my friend?
We did. We got a couple. One said just the Clippers, and they'll never win it.
Aww.
The other one says the Clippers and the Jazz.
That's
So
a
they
good one.
won.
Clippers and Jazz. Yep, you are the winner for the day. We'll get you some swag or something. We'll reach out to you and hook you up with an EBS T-shirt or something. But we got some WWE to talk about as Backlash is going to be live from St. Louis this weekend on Saturday.
Yuck.
Getting shown some merch apparently in the back here. CM Punk made his return last night to WWE again, as the Monday Night Raw ended with him saving Jey Uso's arse.
Mark,
Why
listen,
is-
Sparky
yeah, no,
disagrees with
why
you
with
over
the
there.
hate? What's
He's
wrong?
just horrible.
Sparks.
He's a
Well,
horrible person.
again, well, okay, hold
He's a
on
horrible
now.
person.
He's cooking over here because Phil Brooks isn't exactly the best person outside of the ring. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
he's a horrible person.
Hey, real quick before we get into this, our boy 24 kg is in the building. Good to see
Yeet.
you, my friend.
How are
Praise the
you? How are
Lord.
you doing, good sir?
I've been better. I'm pretty sure you have been better as well. So
I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad to laugh with you guys, talk wrestling as your official wrestling analyst for the Early Bird Special.
Expert.
We've got a lot to go over and kind of comb through. We've got new Vince McMahon allegations. We've got releases. We've got what happened on Raw last night. Hopefully we can fit all this in. So let's kick it off.
Let's start with the releases because that's really what the internet has been talking about the last couple days. And we got a
I haven't heard any of this, so break it down.
There were 17 wrestlers that were let go from the WWE based on their contracts expiring. None of them were fired. This is something that happens all the time. But there were a couple notable names from the main roster and the lower roster, including people like Braun Strowman,
which shocked a lot of people.
Yeah, Dakota Kai being one of them. Shayna Baszler, the best friend of Ronda Rousey.
That shocked some people.
That was the surprising one for me.
Not necessarily surprising me.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen her in quite some time. And usually when you don't see these guys on TV for a couple weeks to a month, it's usually about that time for them to be let go. A couple notable ones that I was not crazy about letting go. The Party Girls were let go. Kaden and Katana
The
Chance.
only real official women's tag team built from the ground up in WWE.
And
which they let go of the previous ones.
Right.
The Alba Fire and
Isla Dawn. They let go of Isla and all, but again,
boggles my mind if you're letting go of your tag
And then-
teams when you're trying to rebuild that division.
I'm still in mourning because they let go of my wrestling crush and my love, Cora Jade, as well.
We
However,
got some heartbreak
we'll get to
music
that.
over there for him.
I just played it.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
really. I'm actually going to be efforting an interview with Cora. Just throwing that out there. But
manifest, my
well,
friend,
hey,
manifest.
she threw her email out there, and I'm
for
just
wrestling
saying,
bookings.
I don't care.
This is about as close as you're gonna get.
This is about as close as we're gonna get for a while. Let's get her on an
Yeah.
interview. Figure out what's going on
We've
here.
got other notable names like
Any-
Gigi Dolan,
Yeah.
Jakar Jackson, Joe Coffey, which surprised me, Katana Chance, which was part of the tag team with Caden Carter, Keanu Carver, Mark Coffey, Oro Mensa, who was just part of Metaphor, who currently disbanded in NXT, Shotzi, Wolfgang, Gigi Dolan, and Eddie Thorpe, and more to mention.
Oh, they did get rid of Shotzi too. That's unfortunate.
Yes, indeed.
But okay, so what people need to understand though is that this is a business, much like everything else, and you can only pay so many people so much money before it becomes a problem.
Tony Khan doesn't seem to understand this
No.
concept because he operates in the red. Continue,
But
please.
the point that I wanted to bounce off both of you is, or at least my belief in this is, none of these people's careers, unless they choose to stop, are over. None of them are really going to be out of work for very long. There's a 90-day contingency where you have to wait before you get signed anywhere.
Also a 30-day for NXT.
Yes. And I think that really, if you look at it, this is going to benefit a lot of these women and men's careers going forward because you're going to get more exposure on different brands. I mean, we've seen it with
Absolutely.
other people. You can go to brand. We live in a world now where wrestling is more of a WWE, AEW, and TNA are seen as more teams like the NFL rather than organizations like, well, NBA, NFL. So you can really go from one team to the next and still contribute and get what you get from playing for these people, essentially. What say you?
100%. 100%. You've seen from previous encounters of how superstars have been released, how they recreate and redefine their careers, images, adaptivity in the ring, their whole creativity in general. Once you've had experience in the dub, breaking into the indies really manifests itself in one of two ways: absolute gold or absolute crap. Case in point, we've got the king of the indies, who's an ex-WWE guy, Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona has been on every indie circuit and reinvented itself, formerly known as Zack Ryder, Long Island Ice-T, internet champion, now holds so many indie titles that he can command his own price when sought after by a major organization or remain a free agent. Thus is how he did with ROH, AEW, etc.
And you can make an actual career doing that now, as Matt has done.
Yes, indeed. Chelsea Green, she was really big on the indies. She's a former U.S. women's champ now, and nonetheless has all the experience to cater to what they will want in the WWE style. It's a lot you can learn out there on the indies. So by no means are these guys' careers over.
Right. No, and I read into more of the surprising move of Strowman, and we've talked about this in past shows. You know, how they didn't have a lot of matches that they could use him in. I don't know. I mean,
I think he did an excellent
with Bronson
job
Reed
getting
going
Bronson
down.
Reed over. Yes,
I think when Reed went down, it kind of hurt his stack. But I think the more I read into it, is more of probably a temporary move because the money he was making
was
he was up there in the top percentage. So
some good old Vince-isms in his contract still.
And again, this does not mean that later in the future these people couldn't come back to the company.
Never say never.
Never, especially with what we've gotten so far. And people like Braun Strowman, who I would hate to see, but would actually probably benefit from retiring from wrestling, as he doesn't have 15% of his left leg. He's paralyzed mostly in his left leg,
you know,
from a neck injury.
The last few matches we've seen him, he's done an absolute wonderful job of getting over people like Bronson Reed, Jacob Fatu. I believe he even had a quick skirmish with Damian Priest
for a second there. Yeah.
You know, there aren't too many guys of his athletic caliber, size, and you know, when he first came out there, he was running around the ring like a train, just, you know, knocking over people. That Strowman Express gimmick going. It was a great look. And then a couple of knee and ankle injuries later, by the time he came back, he did lose a step, but he was still just as good as he previously was.
Reminded me of the end of Big Show.
Yeah.
Very much. Very, very much.
Which is pretty much how they booked him as well. I mean, he was the big monster. He was the guy that you really needed to be the giant of the group.
Yeah.
And he really excelled in his career. That's why I think it won't necessarily hurt him to go to a different company
at all.
Because really, if he went to a company like AEW, as much as we love to, you know, throw our jabs at AEW at times, they could really use a guy like him because most of their wrestlers are pretty much the same size. There's not a lot of size difference in most of their guys, and getting a big guy like that, literal, could potentially help bolster a lot of your matches.
Indeed.
But so what's new with Vince?
Well, we've got complaints coming from a new lawsuit against Vince McMahon, delaying compliance. Now, let's see here. In November 2023, Vince McMahon and the WWE board were accused of giving Endeavor preferential treatment in the bidding process of the company. Now, in a new lawsuit launched by the Labor's District Treatment in the process of this company and the Council Contractors Pension Fund of Ohio, it was alleged that McMahon used his domineering personality and control over WWE to carry out his own personal agenda and the expense of the company's public stockholders. Now, when you're publicly traded, people, this is illegal for any type of company, big or small. It was also suggested that Vince McMahon's behavior has been a pattern for years. And the goal was for him to remain in power, which we also seen play out on television, people. So it's not too far from reality, which is why he approached his long-term friend, Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, about a deal. The lawsuit is still ongoing. A Brent Thurston of WrestleNomics page has reported that McMahon appears to be resisting or delaying in full compliance with the discovery involving the suit. Now, the plaintiffs submitted filing on April 29th and the 30th requesting that the Delaware Court of Chancery compel the disgraceful former, they put that in the article, disgraceful former WWE chairman to respond to discovery requests and produce certain documents. And as a part of this process, they are reported to have a non-privileged material related of discovery for McMahon going on through January 1st of 2022, which he has not responded to and has till the 15th of May 2025, which is upcoming, to respond, or things will be unsheathed, as they say.
So nothing
made
new.
public, basically, people.
Again,
So yeah,
So
we're
he's
not
got-
even going to get into the.
He's got like a
newer
week or
things.
so to.
So we're getting a
to
new
speak up.
Netflix documentary. is what
Yes,
you're
we
telling me.
are.
Yeah,
This doesn't
the
even.
sequel.
Yeah, we're
this,
getting the sequel to the first one.
this doesn't even concern his accuser, but on to more WWE
Raw last
related
night.
Well, hold on,
news.
hold on, hold
wait,
on.
Wait,
No,
we
no,
still got more WWE news.
Uh-oh.
Turns out that Chad Gable wins the Speed title.
no.
Big E is getting married, and Titus O'Neil is on a new dating show.
Well, fantastic.
This-
That's all great.
This is why
hold on.
we're bombarded with WWE.
No. Well, that's
we-
all fine and,
And we
good.
never even talked about the Hogan and the voice.
We're not even
We're-
going
yeah.
there. We're not even going there yet.
Well, hold on. No, we're gonna go back to Vince because that's all fine and good, but that's all you know,
Yeah.
tiddlywinks here.
Yeah.
Tiddlywinks.
What is happening with Vince again? I mean,
Mm.
so this is a completely separate issue.
Well, you know he was raided by the feds. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This
Okay.
is a particular issue inside a bigger issue that is becoming bigger than the original issue. For him withholding evidence, you know how he was raided, files taken, computers, documents, floppies. He keeps everything. That there were some things that were conveniently missing. Now, we're not saying that there were any implications that he had a heads up or what to clear out or what to throw away, seeing as how his ex-wife and former owner of WWE is Linda McMahon and sits high
Working
in a
with Trump.
Trump office. We call it a Trumpist, but
We're
yes,
gonna-
a Trump office.
We're gonna leave that right
Yeah,
there.
we're
Yep.
gonna leave that right there. We're not saying that there was any heads up on, hey, you might want to throw the trash out, but conveniently there is some missing evidence, which is, you know, pending their investigation from being complete.
So taking out the trash, he should have just called Becky Lynch, right?
There we go. There we go. I knew it was coming. We're gonna talk about that promo in a quick sec. That was
Raw last
trash.
night. What'd you think?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Trash.
Okay, so look.
Outside of Paul
Wait,
Heyman and Jey
wait,
Uso and all
wait.
that stuff,
I
that
enjoyed her.
Wait. There's
No.
trash and then there's wet garbage.
And the recycling.
Okay, you know when you pick up the trash and you get one of those cheap liners and it just burst and all over the floor. That was, to me, it seems like we're having a little stumble in the creative process of Paul Levesque's creative team. Maybe they're feeling the heat. Maybe it's The Rock with a little pressure from the board. But this was not the most entertaining of Raws
I
post
think-
WrestleMania.
Really? Because I got the text
No.
during a basketball game that said Raw is really good tonight.
no. That's not what I said. I said Raw is really good, and I
I was
agree.
like,
that-
oh, man, I
I
gotta
don't
start it.
agree that the episode was bad. I said the promo was bad.
Well, I
Oh,
Becky
personally,
and Lyra's promo was trash, not
I
the
think,
show.
I think the whole fighting with them is garbage
You know,
overall. But I liked the promo. But
just-
I also think they're force feeding Lyra because I don't think she's there yet.
No, I don't think Lyra can wrestle anybody except Becky Lynch. Apparently,
Yeah.
that's
Well-
the only thing that I can't. Like,
Yes.
apparently, the only person
agree.
you guys can trust this woman to wrestle with, or vice versa, that everybody in this roster only wants to wrestle or doesn't want to wrestle her. Because why is it always Lyra and Becky? Lyra and Becky. Lyra and Becky. It's like, I'm so over this.
You know, between the promo and me
Trash.
and me nodding off, I thought I was
Trash.
watching Lord of the Rings when they were arguing in the
Trash.
Shire.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
fighting, the missing of the punches, and
All
it
it's
was
gonna do
rough.
is bury this dang Intercontinental belt before it was ever.
The only good thing is how Lyra's outfits are changing. I would say because
Couldn't
that
care
whole
less.
blue
Blue
and
and
the
the feathers.
feathers,
She's
I just
looking
was
at-
over that.
Well,
But
she might be
speaking of-
malting. She's the bird lady.
She
She
looked
might
Speaking
just
of
be
bad
malting.
promos, though, I think this whole Yeet thing we've talked about it.
She came out looking
is-
like a
is
Yu-Gi-Oh card, dude. Like,
Yeah,
stop it.
yeah. It's getting pretty sad.
Well, the start with Yeet, I mean, I would say Heyman helped him out with that because he looked like he was running out of energy before he even started talking.
We just got to ask, when you join Seth Rollins' faction, is it like mandatory that you have to get a like really bright overtan?
See, I posted that on our Instagram, the
Is
Early
that-
Bird Special official.
Yeah,
It
is
said
that-
that somebody found the buy one get one free because
You take your buddy in
Heyman-
with you.
Heyman and
Braun were quite
Braun-
orange.
Braun, very
Heyman
orange.
I feel like much like Karrion Kross just likes to imitate his guy. You know,
Yeah.
Braun has the very tan skin and Goldberg-esque look, so
I think,
he himself has to have a fake
I think
tan.
Paul Heyman's been hanging out with Bill Belichick. So,
Oh,
they got some things in common over there,
They
man.
do.
And,
Yeah, we want to talk about Bill Belichick with his 26-year-old
Hey.
girlfriend.
Hey.
Paul Heyman's just about to get married to a
He said that
27-year-old.
she came out and said that was false. That they're not getting married.
Regardless, if
I
you're
was like,
dating
still,
a 27-year-old and
you're
you're
having
in
a
your
good time.
60s,
You're having a good time. If Shannon Sharp taught you nothing, guys, come on.
Shoot.
I mean, it's ridiculous at this point.
But overall,
I
with
digress.
Raw,
Overall, no, Raw was good to build up for Backlash. Obviously, you got the setup for Seth Rollins to potentially get in on this World Heavyweight Championship fight as well. But Logan Paul actually made an appearance after the show went off air again.
Okay.
Question.
What happened?
And knocked out Jay again.
Question. How long do you think this Jey Uso world title run is going to go? Because I'm suggesting it goes no longer than SummerSlam.
I thought he was going to lose it last night.
Honestly, yeah, it looked like it. Looked like it.
I think that's on purpose. I think that they're trying to sow that seed of doubt into this story so Jay has something to fight for. Because if you notice that champions that run like Jey Uso that are fan favorites like that, the stories are always better when they're fighting up.
Yeah.
Not when they're fighting down.
Look what happened with Damian Priest.
Exactly. So when you're fighting somebody that is above your pay grade, those stories are always so much better because you're the constant underdog. So that's why I think that they're trying to sow some sort of doubt into this. So it could seem that maybe it's not Logan that takes it off of him, but maybe Braun Breaker or somebody bigger like Gunther comes back for it again. They're towards SummerSlam area, and you see it get ripped off of him again.
Well, it opened up that same discussion we had about who's going to join this group with Seth. I thought for sure when Heyman came out because he interrupted for Logan.
Yeah, if it was going to be Logan, it would have been Logan last night.
I still think they post the Gunther after Backlash.
Could be right. We could not be seeing Logan Paul join the faction, but then that opens, I believe, the more
likely one
of Austin Theory.
That's exactly what I was about.
And they set that up yesterday as well.
I see it, and I'm with it.
They've been setting this up for over a year.
Well, they set up them bickering at each other when he bowed out of that match.
Wait a minute. What if it's not Austin? What if it's Grayson that they bring in? No, because Grayson, he was almost cream of the crop in NXT. Never really held a title down there, but he was a marketable heel. I feel like he got called up a little too quick. His run could have waited, it could have went a little bit longer down there in NXT. But pairing him with Austin Theory was out of nowhere. It worked. But now, for a while, they've been needing to split that tag team up. Austin Theory is a definite blue chipper, and I can't wait to see what happens under the Paul Levesque regime and the whole thing that he does with his creative, because Vince had the guy set up for success, but it didn't feel organic. It was the push. This is my guy. And it was obvious, and fans rejected it like how they do. So if this is a possibility and they're reawakening the Austin Theory experiment, I feel like his fit in Seth Rollins' faction on television could work great.
I think it could be. I think Austin Theory makes a lot more sense. And honestly, it's either Austin Theory or it's somebody from NXT that hasn't been called up yet.
Definitely.
Because there's rumors of guys like Trick Williams and Tony D'Angelo finally getting a call up as well. And then pretty much revamping NXT with all of these LFG guys that were just on this TV show that they're ending here in, I believe, about 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. I know tonight they're going to have an entire battle royale where you're going to see a lot of these kids that are the new ones that are going to be a part of this as well, to see who's going to be the next number one contender on NXT.
Really?
So yeah, that's supposed to be tonight. I know at least 4 of the people from LFG, if you've been watching that show, will be in that match.
How do you feel about Rusev re-debuting last night in official capacity of hurting people like Otis?
Look,
beating the crap out of both of them.
I love Rusev. I do. And I think this is going to sprout something that potentially makes maybe Rusev the new leader of Alpha Academy and changes Alpha Academy into something else. Because I think he fits with that very well, especially with the Blonde and Rusev dynamic that's always been there in the WWE with Maxine Dupree, who also is desperately needing something to help her. But it just...
So
because my main thing here is we just went through 17 cuts of people that were probably better than everybody on Alpha Academy. So you need to do something to justify keeping them a thing.
So you're saying have Rusev beat them into shape.
Exactly.
Beat them into
and then you get
beat them into success, I should say.
And then you get a natural rivalry between the new Alpha Academy and American Made, which will now be the American team against the what is Rusev? He's Bulgarian. Yeah. So the Bulgarian squad, if whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think just fantasy booking here, if we could get Rusev and Gunther to somehow cross paths, I think we'd have a money match.
Oh, that's going to happen eventually. It has to. When you have two powerhouses, especially two European powerhouses like this, it's hard not to put them in a match together.
I honestly, when I seen that, I was just like, you know what? They're on the same show. This has a possibility of happening.
Well, I see the same thing with Dom and El Grande.
That would be hilarious. I'm gonna keep it real.
Honestly, I don't know if that's gonna happen though, because
now with Gable coming out to help him.
Exactly, like Gable's helping.
With this,
maybe we get a tag with Dom and El Grande.
Well, because Dom set him up with the training and all of that months ago.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. Maybe you get the Lucha Bros first match. Is it going to be against Dom and El Grande? I could totally see that.
Speaking of Dominic Mysterio on the Judgment Day, we did have a backstage segment with Judgment Day, Finn Balor and AJ Styles.
Are we finally getting the Bullet Club?
It almost looks like it.
Desperately seems like it to me, because
almost looks like
you look in the background of that promo, nothing but skulls and bullets.
Come on. Do you see JD leaving Judgment Day to roll with Finn and go with AJ for a new version of or type of Bullet Club?
Absolutely.
I think we might be cooking, fellas.
Now, again, this is a rumor that's been happening that's been brewing around the internet the last couple of years, is if they will ever actually make that a thing, since you have half of the main, or at least the starting group on your roster.
You've got both the Tongans, you've got AJ, you've got
Finn, you had Carl Anderson at one point.
Hey, congratulations to Carl Anderson. I see that he put up he's been 500 days sober recently, since they've been let go, and he's in ring back training to reestablish his career somewhere. So shout out to Carl.
You think Penta takes the belt from Dom this weekend?
Nah.
I sure hope not.
And honestly, let's use that as a transition, because Backlash is this Saturday. You can watch it on Peacock. It's live from St. Louis, Missouri.
Indeed.
And I know we have 5 matches on the card currently, starting with, obviously, the Intercontinental Championship being put on the line with Dominic Mysterio against Penta. I don't see this Dominic Mysterio run with this belt ending very quickly. I think that we're going to get this at least for half a year.
Oh, they're going to piss off a bunch of people.
I don't even think you are. I think this is what the fans wanted.
Yeah.
Well,
we saw the reaction at Mania.
There's going to come a time where they're going to want that strap on somebody, much like how they did with Jey Uso. We want to see him with it. Now that we've seen this match with Seth and teased it immediately on, title jumping, I feel like we're about to see a game of hot potato with certain titles in WWE right now. Hot potato could really be played right now with the women's mid-card belts, but
it should be.
Let's just see how it goes for now. Dominic is going to do a great job as an IC, the greatest Mysterio to hold an IC title.
Well, I think they hold it with him, and then they'll kind of corge that comment you guys were just saying with the breakup of the Judgment Day, and then maybe using AJ Styles to get into that mix.
The real question is does the Judgment Day break up before Liv gets back from her movie film?
It would only be so right.
It
would only be
come back and everything's broke.
Which we did get an answer to what she will be playing. I believe she's going to be in the next adaptation of Bad Lieutenant, which is a cop movie essentially, that she'll be playing the main politician's daughter who gets abducted and all of that type of stuff. So she'll be in at least in the forefront of this movie. So that's pretty fun.
I could see her do it. I could see that.
And then the U.S. Championship, Fatu, McIntyre, LA Knight, and Priest again.
That's going to be that should be the main event.
How crazy would this be if Fatu stacks all 3 of them like Roman did with Edge and Bryan?
I wouldn't be surprised.
That would be pretty intense.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I mean, again, you get 3. They're really beefing up this U.S. title.
The mid-card entirely, like Jacob Fatu and his feuds with people are saving the entire mid-card in that faction. And also with Dominic Mysterio over there on Raw holding up that Intercontinental belt. That's one thing I can say, their focus on the mid-card division, especially upper mid-card, is stacked. That's where the showmanship is right now in the division.
Right.
Because I'm still kind of, I'm gonna keep it real, I'm still kind of turded from the match at WrestleMania between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. In review, I think I was more excited about it, and something in my mind told me it was going to be great, but the results were lesser than.
And that doesn't surprise me because I think a lot of people felt that way, especially with Travis making his
appearance. Makes you not want to trust the brand, and I feel some fans complain on, this and that. Okay, shut up, enjoy the ride. I get all that stuff, but at certain points, you've got to take accountability for your creative.
Well, speaking of that, it sets up perfect because Gunther and Pat
McAfee.
Oh God,
this isn't going to last very long.
Okay.
Although,
yeah,
I subscribe to the idea that this sets up Goldberg's retirement match.
Most definitely, because this is what he wanted.
Yeah,
and
he wants Gunther.
And anything for a pop, since WWE is really selling itself out for anything that's nostalgia based or.
So you think we see Goldberg this weekend?
Oh, you mean Oldberg?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him, so
I'm cool,
think
bro.
It's almost guaranteed we do. And to be honest,
the big busting man with the meat, Big E would say, Goldberg, no all-time classic. This isn't gonna be a 5-star grappling match.
No,
this is gonna
although it might be with Gunther in it. I don't know.
This is gonna be chops.
It'll be a lot of
Gunther gonna save him.
A lot of sleeper holds.
A lot of sleeper holds.
Jeez,
a lot of suplexes.
See, but does Goldberg get Gunther up for that? For that, what do you call it, the jackknife, right?
Oh man, not without a protein shake and a Red Bull.
I mean, you gotta get light for that one.
Yeah,
heavy as he is.
That's I don't know. Gunther is about 6'5",
something like that.
He's a big boy.
And
a big boy.
About 280, a lean like 260, 280. So. This guy,
it's gonna be silly.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Well, I can skip the Lyra and Becky Lynch and just go straight into this.
So
the main event.
No need for that.
Cena and Orton.
Who wins?
Wrap
this up.
Okay,
Cena.
so look, my heart. My heart. You sound like one of the fans, one of the little neckbeard fans. In my basement with my pizza rolls. I want Randy Orton to win. But logically. We're gonna go ahead and say John Cena is gonna take.
John's
this.
winning this.
I
would love to see Randy win, but WWE isn't one of those companies that just gives you a belt just because you're taking on a champion at your home. Let's bring up Zelina Vega and a lot of others that have really just taken the pin and gotten their butt handed to them.
Tell them how this goes for fans that don't know, Chris. When you're a champion in WWE or vying for a championship. And you happen to wrestle in your hometown, what usually happens?
Unless it's the Royal Rumble or the Money in the Bank match, you usually get your butt handed to you and sent back to your house.
Really bad. Yeah. And they're for some reason, they always have your family in the front row.
Always.
Why do they like putting these guys' families in the front row? And
well, because again, it's the emotional factor. You get the Disney story that way because the kids are watching and the kids are now crying because daddy's losing. And
it makes great cinema. I'm gonna keep it real. When John Cena made that kid cry, I literally I loved it.
The only difference is Randy's kids are all grown and would probably jump the barricade. And
that is true.
So, but that is what's going to be happening this weekend at Backlash live from St. Louis. KG, thank you for your time, my friend. As always,
I love you guys.
Love you too, buddy.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after we pay some bills here with our buddy Nick Hronis, who's going to help us out with understanding some things about the Kentucky Derby. And I got to get his thoughts on this entire Justin Tucker move with the Baltimore Ravens as well. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, you can watch us live on YouTube at the Early Bird Special. We'll be right back. Shame on you, Sparky, playing the bops. I can't bop my head. Shame on you. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We have another very special guest in the building. One of the best lineman coaches I've ever had the grace of being on the football field with, as well as.
I would hope. Look at this monster.
That's what I'm saying, man. And one of the. What are you? How high up are you in Horonis racing?
As far as
it goes, I mean, I know the money comes from you guys. So.
Yeah, so it's mainly head up by my uncle Costa and my aunt Stephanie and my dad Pete. So they're basically the front runners. I'm kind of in the back.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Nick Horonis, good friend of the show and one of the hosts of This Isn't Chicken, or
Yes.
That's Not Chicken, right?
This isn't chicken. Yep.
One of the podcasts you can go check out anywhere on your podcast platforms. They started on Friday. It was fantastic.
We did. Thank you.
Love the name.
Love it.
Yeah.
It was
We're trying to catch people off guard with it,
Right?
So like,
I
hey,
mean, well,
what's
it's
this
different.
about?
That's why I was like, because we were trying to think about it. I knew it wasn't That's Not Chicken.
Right.
But I mean, it's a really fun.
Well, most of the time it is chicken. So that's why I like
That's
it.
what people hope for, at least.
And we did mention a little bit of chicken talk in our podcast, and we said we said that was the one and only time we're going to do that. But what it's, and you guys had Adam in here, and it's between myself, Adam, and his brother Brandon. Who we're really good friends. And,
also, congratulations to Brandon if
yes.
he's listening, for getting married over the weekend.
Yes, that's right.
Congratulations, my brother.
Yes, congratulations, Brandon. And so it kind of just started as a kind of a joke between us, and then honestly, it just said, "What if we did this?" Like,
right.
and then Brandon, who's the basically creator of all of our content and our logo, and he's really good at it. And honestly, we just started looking at different logos, and we came up with a design, and you could see it on our podcast page. And no, we are been having a blast doing it. And then, like I said, we went live on Friday, and we are trying to release an episode every Friday for everybody.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about wrestling and stuff like that, because I know you're a big wrestling fan as well. But let's start with the Kentucky Derby, because that was over the weekend. Yes. I know you guys didn't have a horse this year, unlike past years, obviously.
Correct.
But real quick, because I know a lot of people have some questions in terms of how this actually gets done. Like how do you guys go about finding the horses, how you're going to go about training them, and all that type of stuff?
Sure. So, these are a different animal type of horse. You have to qualify for this race.
Right.
Okay. So we did have a horse that had the chance of qualifying, and Latitude is his name, and he ended up getting a injury and just didn't make the qualification for it. And but no, it's definitely a heavy field of some of the best horses in the country. So it's a tough entry. So we hopefully have a chance at it next year.
Do you know of any, what are the qualifications? What does your horse have to actually do?
They have to win a certain type of race. So if they win that race, then it's basically an automatic entry.
Oh, okay.
So they have to meet a certain criteria, basically.
Oh, okay. And then I know you guys don't the careers of these horses are not very long.
No.
At all. So how often are you guys training a horse for the next year and stuff like that?
So, we always have new up and coming horses every year. So it just depends on the type of horse. Every horse is different. They're running a different length of race, that just all these different types of races. So you never know what you're going to get out of these horses. We have many horses that we have full potential for, and we're just hopeful. And then it's all about health.
Mm-hmm.
And and do they show up that day?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the whole ordeal.
Now, one of the weirder stories that I saw from over the weekend is that every horse that took part in this year's Kentucky Derby was a descendant of Seabiscuit.
Right.
Was yours a descendant of Seabiscuit?
You know what? I don't know that answer, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So
I was just kind of curious, because I was like, if this is really how far we've gone with Seabiscuit, that every horse is going to be part Seabiscuit.
Right.
That's kind of ridiculous,
sure.
right?
Yeah, no, it is. No, it is. I did see that, but I don't know the top of my head if any of our horses.
Well, so just being in that type of business, I mean, it sounds like it's just like any other sport. That's a full year commitment.
Correct.
There's scouting. There's
correct.
I'm sure there's a certain diet and training that you guys have to do. I mean,
there's a lot of grapes for them to eat.
Right? Yeah, we produce just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. Honestly, when you look at this year's field, talking about this year's race, you look at, like I said, some of the best horses in the country, and then on paper, when you looked at it, and we talked about it with our guys and stuff, and we said, okay, who's the best horse on paper? And Journalism actually was the best horse statistically on paper. Okay.
Yeah, he was 3-1 odds.
Correct. Right? And so when you look at that, and then you have to take everything in for account. You have to take in the track, the weather, things like that. So Journalism races in Southern California just like we do.
Mhm.
Okay. So you have Santa Anita Park in Pasadena, and you have Del Mar Racetrack in San Diego, California. And so what are these horses used to? They're used to nice weather. It's 99.9% sunny all the time.
Yeah.
And then you go to Churchill Downs, and it's a different track, and the weather is very inclement. You have multiple days of rain. And what happens is, basically when you have a track like that, super muddy, it's slower. Basically, you could throw everybody in the mix of having a chance to win.
Mhm.
So because it slows everything down.
So of course that weather changed up the odds.
Oh,
and-
absolutely.
Okay.
So, Sovereignty ended up winning, and Journalism got second,
Mhm.
and which was amazing that
Yeah.
he was still able to pull off
Almost
the
came
second.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, with Sovereignty, the winner, the trainer Bill Mott, everybody's happy about that. He's very well respected across the horse racing community, and I think everybody at the end of the day was happy with the winner.
Now, out of just a curiosity for myself, and feel free to tell me, like, can't give you this number. How much do you guys usually spend a year on these horses?
I actually do not know that.
You don't know
to
the
the
answer
top
to
of
that
my
question?
head. I
Okay.
don't.
Well, it's
I don't.
definitely not a cheap
No,
sport.
no,
to be
no.
involved
That's
with.
why
Yeah.
I'm curious. 'Cause it's like, this has to be a ridiculous amount of money.
As my uncle and my dad have both told me, it's the sport of kings, basically.
Absolutely.
It's a different animal, but I don't know numbers on the top of my head.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
I mean, they haven't really passed that down to you
No,
yet, have they?
I honestly, I show up to the races, I get told, and I'm a big supporter. So.
I mean, if they ever did say, "Hey, we want you in the next in
Uh-huh.
line to take over the
Sure.
horses," are you going to?
Sure, absolutely. I want to
Awesome.
continue. It's just like my family business. That's kind of like, it's a family
It's a
thing.
part of it?
It is. And so I love it. And my family loves it. And no, I would definitely like to follow up on
Any
it.
front runners for next year you guys are kind of thinking of?
So we do. We have a couple different horses. Full Serrano, who won our Breeders' Cup race this past November in Del Mar. He had a little bit of a setback, but he's expecting to have a big summer this coming year, probably in July, which would be Del Mar.
Mhm.
And also Bran has another potential for big races for us. He's going to be racing this weekend at Santa Anita. And another part of what we do, one of our, probably not if the best horse to ever live, Flightline, was undefeated for us. And so another part of the business is the breeding part.
Right.
And so currently what he's doing right now is in Kentucky and then having babies. So he's already had over 300 babies
Wow.
already. And I think he has about 150 different mares that are currently pregnant.
Wow.
So
He's been busy.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and
We're talking about
he's-
Seabiscuit having some babies. Good Lord.
Yeah, he's going to have fun now.
Yes.
So,
He's gonna
but
come
so
back happy.
that
What a retirement.
and we already have 5 of his babies in line to start next year.
Okay, so that's another question that pops into my head too. Do
Sure.
you guys get, I don't want to say first dibs,
Right.
but like first rights to which babies
Basically,
you want?
we get to choose our mares that we'd like to breed him with, and
Okay.
so in a sense, yes.
Oh, okay.
So,
So it only benefits you guys in the entire group going forward.
correct,
obviously.
correct. So no, it's something really special because we've never seen a horse like Flightline, and Flightline was amazing, and
Mhm.
and every race he raced in, he would win by very.
Remind me what year Flightline was in the Derby.
So Flightline was never in the Derby.
I thought he was in the Derby.
No, he was never in the Derby. He won Breeders' Cup and
Breeders' Cup. That's what it was.
So people have this conception of the Kentucky Derby being the championship of horse racing,
right.
and it's a very, very big spectacle. It's everybody's dressed nice. It's a big ordeal.
Yeah, but that's
it's
what
more
it
like
is.
the Masters,
It-
right?
it is.
Like, it's
It-
not
it is.
really the-
But
Yeah.
the Breeders' Cup is actually the championship of horse racing.
Right, that's what it is. That's why I got it mixed up.
And we've won a few, and but yeah, like going back to Flightline, whenever he'd raced, he'd win by big margins,
Right.
And he was just built differently. So
Well, before we get into other sports, because I know you're a Ravens guy, how young do these horses do you start the training?
I mean, they're racing at 2 years old.
Wow.
So and their racing career is not very long, 2 to 4 years old is when
Yeah.
their primary racing. But yeah, they're starting, pretty early.
Wow.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
your entire life being based around this type of a sport must be interesting too.
Right.
But moving on to a little bit of football, because obviously you have a little bit of background in that as well. I've
Just a
coached
little
with
bit.
this man. He's
Yep.
one of the best lineman coaches. Along
Thank
with,
you.
along with Coach Izzy.
That's right.
Got to shout out Coach
Coach
Izzy.
Izzy.
But your team just made my co-host here said a bold move yesterday. I kind of saw this coming, but
Right.
Justin Tucker being let go,
Sure.
longtime kicker.
Sure.
Your thoughts?
So to me, it's really difficult to displace of what he's done for the organization. And to me, we have probably the best organization in all of the NFL. You know,
I remember you texting us yourself saying nobody drafts better than the Ravens.
Right. Eric DaCosta and that whole group, they do a fantastic job every single year. And Tucker, to me, I can't go into details of what's happened, and the Ravens are the ones that know.
Yeah.
I cannot take away what he's done for the team, and honestly, he's put in all these years, and he's made almost every kick he's ever tried. And then, I just knew this kind of like even before all this, and I figured it's probably going to be time. And they drafted a kicker in Tyler Loop from Arizona. And I figured, you know what, if we're going to do it, all these newer kickers, you see the kid in Dallas, these guys are kicking 60 plus yarders like nothing.
Yeah.
And, and I think it was, it was about time for Tucker to probably maybe step away.
Do you think he hangs it up after this?
You know what? I want to say he does. I don't think he has any more to prove. He's won a Super Bowl with us.
He's going down as one of the greatest kickers.
Yes, yeah. I definitely have him in the GOAT conversation with Vinatieri and those guys. And,
absolutely.
No, it's hard for me to take away anything he's done. He's been tremendous.
Absolutely. And then what was your favorite of the draft picks? Because I know you got to have one.
Oh, for sure, Malachi Starks. He's unbelievably. I think
putting him next to Kyle.
Yeah, next to him to Kyle, and
actually have a safety.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. So him coming out of Georgia, he's very, very high talented safety, and we already have probably one of not the best safeties in the league in Kyle Hamilton.
And didn't you guys get Mike Green as
we
well?
We did.
Yeah,
it is.
That is a steal out of Marshall.
You know what? It's amazing what the Ravens do in the draft. They just seem to just pull these guys into like, hey, we forgot about him.
Or his stock dropped for a reason, though.
Yeah,
I mean, there's also another guy that's dealing with some past, sexual allegations. So, I mean, I heard Harbaugh yesterday talking about it. This was a football decision, and obviously drafting a young, talented kicker just sets it up perfectly. They can jump away from that and try to get that crowd, but bringing in somebody with Mike Green kind of just felt different. It was like, okay, well, you're getting away from this, but then bringing in another one. I know the Tucker stuff happened,
years ago.
Yeah, it was like 2012 to 16. So hopefully they have some type of proof that, okay, this is going to be something that he was proven guilty or innocent and can move forward with it. But it's just one of those things that we had a listener that texted in and said, I don't believe that Tucker was let go because of the football. He did have a rough last year, but hopefully he gets picked up. I don't think Tucker gets picked up.
No, I think his career is done. Not necessarily over because of the allegations, but I just think it's time to hang it up. You're one of
13,
the best.
14 years.
There's no kicker that could kick better than you in your entire tenure. I don't say you even chance it.
I don't really think he needs to. Like
No.
I said, he's done plenty.
Absolutely.
So.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And then real quick before I let you go, I know you're a wrestling fan too.
Yes.
You were at WrestleMania with our buddy Adam.
I was.
What are your thoughts on Backlash? Do you have any match you're looking forward to this weekend?
Sure. So, of course, the McAfee Gunther match is going to be very interesting.
Entertaining, at least, right?
It is. Who
doesn't love to see McAfee?
Right. Exactly. I'm a big fan of McAfee, and who the heck knows what's going to happen with that match? Yeah. But yeah, that'll be very interesting. And then something we talked about on our podcast is wrestling kind of. With the Randy Orton, John Cena match, kind of taking a step back a little bit and kind of going back to those Attitude Era kind of style, people that watched during that time of, Randy Cena was over 10 years ago. and then Randy coming back and now trying to make his face again of himself. And no, I mean, of course, I'm going to be rooting for Randy, but I don't know if they're going to let Cena just win it at WrestleMania and then come back and lose
Right
at
away,
Backlash.
right.
So I hope, like I said, I'm going to be cheering for Randy, but more than likely, I probably see Cena winning.
I mean, I think Cena is deserving of a win against Randy here after all of the years of punishment that he took from Orton.
Exactly.
And honestly, I have to agree with you. I think that Triple H is rewarding the fans that have been here for so long, especially since the Attitude Era, with these types of matches. So I'm just excited for Backlash in general, and hopefully Travis Scott doesn't show up this time.
Yeah, we don't need him to show up.
No, we don't need to show up anymore. But my friend, thank you so much for your
thank
time.
you guys for having me.
We will bring you back in anytime you guys want to talk about the pod. If there's
Perfect.
any racing stuff you want to bring up, anything, just reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you again.
Thank you guys for having me this
Thank
morning.
you, my brother.
Thank you.
That's Nick Coronas, everybody. Go check out This Isn't Chicken, the podcast. You can find it on every podcast platform, right? You can find it on Spotify and all that?
Yeah. So right now it's on Apple Podcasts, and we're trying to get everything uploaded on the other places too.
Fantastic. Well, look out for that and go check them out, guys. They're absolutely hilarious and very entertaining to listen to. But we got to take a break and pay some bills ourselves. Just into the early bird special on 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go check us out on YouTube and social media at the early bird special. welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, wrapping it up here on this Tuesday. I want to thank Nick Coronis and our boy 24KG for joining us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we answered a lot of your questions.
You answered a lot of mine, man, because I believe this is probably the first time I ever watched the Derby.
Well, there's a lot of questions that go into it that I know a lot of people just would love to understand the finer ins and outs of how this stuff works.
And I just randomly picked one because I knew everyone had the
it's-
1 out of 3 guy. So I was like, I'm just going
Honestly,
to randomly pick somebody.
That's why, I mean, we were texting about it and said, could you pick one right now? And I went with journalism just because he was the favorite and a journalism major in myself. Plus, he was coming out of I think he was the number 17 horse, if I'm not mistaken, which is my favorite number. So it all kind of just lined up that way. I was off by 1. Oh, well. But
I didn't think about it, but the weather.
It plays a huge factor in stuff like this, man.
I was like, they're going to let these fools race in this rain? And sure enough, they did. But
I mean, you just heard him, Flightline, if you guys remember him, if you guys are horse racing fans, or at least you follow loosely. The Hronis family has been all over the place in terms of the horse racing world, and he will be back to talk more about that stuff with us, plus many, many other things. He's a great guy and great person to talk to. But real quick, before we get out of here, I know we got a couple text messages, but one last story to get to before we get done. The NFL was with President Trump yesterday as they announced that the 2027 NFL draft will be coming live from Washington, D.C., which means Trump's probably going to be the guy calling your first-round draft pick. Just throwing that out
in
there.
Other news.
Yeah, in other news.
We got a few messages.
Yeah, who we got on the phone?
One said, I'm taking the Warriors in 5.
Ooh.
And to be honest, I think OKC is the team that's most in trouble. But I agree, game 2 tonight for the Cavs is probably the most, or is a must win.
Oh, it's 100% a must win, because if you go back to Indiana down 2-0, much like a lot of these other series, it's going to be very hard to rally behind that. Now, Cleveland is, again, a very gifted and deep team, so they could make it work. But I wouldn't expect them to come out flat in game 2, especially if Darius Garland plays. So I'm going to wait on that one.
Another one said, I'm glad you guys are back. My top 3 GOATs is MJ, Kobe, and Russell.
Ooh, Russell's another good one. The championship argument obviously is a big one, but Russ, just because of the competition he played against, I feel is why he gets left out of that. But Wilt also has to be in that conversation if we're going to go down the Bill Russell situation. We got anything else, or?
Yeah, we got one said Penta's new entrance was badass.
Penta's obviously one of the best wrestlers in the WWE and will continue to be so for the next couple of years.
Stupid walk.
It's gonna grow on
catchy,
you, Sparky.
I know. I caught
it's
myself
gonna
doing
grow
it.
on you.
I was doing it with my wife last night.
Telling you.
And she's like, "Oh my god!"
You're gonna see other athletes doing this walk here pretty soon.
My picks today are the Dodgers, Capitals, Golden Knights, Cavs, and the Timberwolves.
Ooh.
And the last message was, "You're all wrong. Penta beats Dom and gets the title."
Not this early. Dom has been working his butt off for too dang long for them to rip it off of him early. He will get it eventually, though. I will give that to you. He is right around the corner from his own singles championship. But that's all we got for you guys right now on the Early Bird Special. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. No guests so far, but we'll let you guys know if that changes. Sparky, let's get out of here, my friend.